Let's do a deep dive on Packers' first round draft selection, Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of the University of Texas. For the first time since 2002, the Green Bay Packers spent a first round draft selection on a wide receiver, a player that I really liked going into this draft class, someone that I thought could give a lot to the Green Bay Packers, and was even fortunate enough to talk to Matthew Golden the day before he was drafted by the Packers in the first ever draft in Green Bay. So, of course, he was going to be the first prospect that I did a deep dive and breakdown here on this channel. So we're going to do a deep dive into Matthew Golden, what he could bring to this Packers offense, what we should expect from him year one. And, of course, to tie it all together, we're going to look at some tape from Matthew Golden's year at Texas this last season to show you guys that as well. All right, so let's get things started and first dive into Matthew Golden's athletic profile. He didn't do much testing at the combine, so he didn't qualify for an RAS score, but the one test he did do at the combine, he scored the best at in the entire combine, and that was the 40-yard dash, running a 4.2940, which is, of course, elite speed. We see a good 20-yard split, a great 10-yard split. Now, one thing about his size that was a little bit of a concern going into the draft in terms of tying him to the Green Bay Packers was that he's 5'11", 191 pounds, a little bit under what the Packers typically draft for their outside wide receivers. But one thing that was inherently clear this entire draft class for the Green Bay Packers, they didn't hold their thresholds that close to their chest. They kind of went a slightly off of the thresholds, not only at wide receiver with Matthew Golden here, but they did it with edge with Barron Sorrell, and even more so with Colin Oliver. There are certain thresholds that the Packers have for certain positions. Obviously, we went over all of those in the pre-draft process, and Matthew Golden was one that was kind of right on the line, where it's kind of like, okay, do the Packers have interest in him? Now, Golden falling to 23 was a bit of a shock. A lot of people had him tied to the Dallas Cowboys at pick 12. So I feel like at that point, as he fell all the way to 23, the Green Bay Packers had no problem writing that name down on the card and selecting a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in over 2 decades. Because of what Matthew Golden brings to the table and what he's going to offer for this offense with the 4.29 speed, whether you believe he actually ran a 4.29 or not, when you throw in the tape, Matthew Golden is a burner at wide receiver. This is a fast player. So what he's going to bring to the table year one, especially with the absence of Christian Watson, is going to be an outside threat receiver that can take the top off a defense. If he gets one-on-one opportunities, Jordan Love is going to give him his shots deep. But that's not the only thing Matthew Golden is. He's a very versatile wide receiver at that. You can play him at the X, you can play him at the Z, you could even play him in the slot. He's a very nuanced route runner as well, and one of the best separators, in my opinion, coming out of this entire draft class. Another huge thing in Matthew Golden's game is he can become that true number one wide receiver. You saw it late in Texas's season in the college football playoffs, especially against Arizona, where every time Texas needed a first down or needed a big play, Quinn Ewers was going to Matthew Golden, and he made the play time and time again. Bringing up Matthew Golden's stats and profile here on PFF, Golden was a transfer out of Houston. So in 2022 and 2023, he played for Houston. Then he transferred to Texas in 2024 to become the next first round wide receiver drafted out of Texas, and has the opportunity to become the best one in the recent years drafted out of Texas. We see in 2022 in Houston, both of his years really in Houston, not much volume, right? So he only saw 367 pass snaps in 2022, 38 receptions, 584 yards. In 2023, he did get one more reception, but it was actually in less snaps, 267 snaps. He had 39 receptions, 419 yards. So he had more receptions, but less yards, less snaps, and less touchdowns. Then, of course, transferred over to Texas and had his best season yet. And it's the reason why he was drafted in the first round, especially later in the season, as I mentioned, in the college football playoffs. He played in 16 games and nearly 500 snaps. He played 367 snaps out wide, 118 snaps in the slot, again showcasing that versatility. 58 receptions on 83 targets for 987 yards, 17 yards per reception, and 9 total touchdowns. And looking at some of his advanced stats and his grades, he had a 75.6 receiving grade, 2.1 yards per route run, a 6.5% drop rate, so really average, right? So with 4 drops, 6.5 rate, bang average, not a terrible drop rate, not a wonderful drop rate. 61.1% contested catch rate is something you definitely have to highlight with Matthew Golden, because when you take take a look at his frame and you don't watch the film, you might be going, he's just a deep threat. He has to burn his defender to make a play. That is not the case. Matthew Golden has tremendous body control and plays a lot bigger than his frame and is not afraid to remain physical and go up and make a catch. And I'll show you some of those examples in today's film. He also has a 65.2 grade versus man coverage, a 13.5 average depth of target. He had 438 deep yards, which was 30th best of all wide receivers in college football, 13 deep catches, which was tied for 15th best. He also took 7 screen catches for 30 screen yards, so wasn't really utilizing the screen game too much. I think the Packers will end up utilizing him there, just get the ball in his hands, because he does have some, good yards after catch ability there. And you see slot catches, he had 16, 327 slot yards, again, showing that versatility. And with that contested catch rate of 61.1%, he had a total of 11 contested catches, which was tied for 60th of all wide receivers. I would like to see that stat of receivers under 6 feet. How many of them had 10 plus contested catches? I don't know how to really look into that, but I'm sure he'd be in the top 10, 15, no doubt. Another thing that we could potentially see year one is Matthew Golden at kick return. Now, I know a lot of people might be thinking, why in the world would the Packers use a first-round pick and put him at kick return? Well, Jaden Reed returned punts for 2 years, and he was a second-round pick, so I wouldn't put it past the Green Bay Packers to at least give him the opportunity there. Now, will it be someone like Keyshawn Nixon, Savion Williams, McCole Hardman? That's likely the route the Packers will go, but they do have an option with Matthew Golden, as he did return mainly at Houston. We see in 2022, he had 5 returns for 116 yards, a 23.2 average. Nothing crazy, but in 2023 is where he really shined at kick return at Houston. He had 9 returns for 321 yards, a whopping 35.7 average, and also returned 2 kicks for touchdowns. Now, he also returned kicks for Texas, but had his lowest average per return of his career with 14 returns. Obviously, more volume there, 285 yards, only 20.4 yards per return. So he has some capability as a returner. Do I think the Packers plug him into returner right away? No, I don't think they'll do that, and he might not even return 1 kick in his career. If Christian Watson was available week 1, maybe then his route would be returner at first. But with Christian Watson out with a torn ACL, I think Matthew Golden's route to getting playtime is going to be week 1 in the offense. All right, so now let's dive down into the film. I have a handful of clips from Matthew Golden's 2024 season here at Texas, showcasing a lot of his abilities. So let's bring up the film, let's bring up the screen, and we're going to see Matthew Golden at the top of the screen here. This cornerback in front of him is actually covering the motion man. So right now he's facing off, I believe, zone coverage from this Clemson defender here. But right pre-snap, Clemson defender is going to shoot up, go into a press here, and Matthew Golden's going to showcase his release package off the line of scrimmage here with a nice stutter step to the outside, and then break inside and very, very quickly burst upfield, and then use his body to shield this defender while also leaning a bit to the outside, kind of pushing this defender more to the outside to set up this post route. And you'll see right at the top here, just break inside after leaning and pushing that defender to the outside and then breaking upfield. A little bit of a late throw here. If this ball was placed way out there, we're talking about a touchdown, but this other defender, comes back from his deep third and goes to help out the other cornerback on the other side because Matthew Golden has him burned, and he has 2 defenders in his face because it's an underthrown ball, and he goes up there and makes a very, very impressive contested catch over the cornerback that came to help there. The cornerback's just watching Matthew Golden's eyes. He's watching his hands, and he's going into swat and try to break that up the moment the ball gets there. And Matthew Golden shows great display of strong hands here, focusing on the football, not really worrying about the defender around him, just going up there, getting that catch and securing it to the ground and not allowing that defender to knock that ball out. This was a simple post route. It's nothing crazy. The start of the release package was executed perfectly to create space out of this from this cornerback, using his hands here to kind of hand fight, keep that defender on his outside shoulder. They're in cover 3, so the cornerback is supposed to remain outside, but Matthew Golden does a good job at slightly leaning to the right here and playing on this safety, because if he started to just break inside too early, the safety is going to drop back and cover that perfectly. So he's leaning a little bit into this cornerback here, saying, okay, maybe I'm running a corner, maybe I'm just running a 9. And that's a little things. It's just the little nuances in your route running that gets you open. And it does here with Matthew Golden. And this should have been a touchdown. Place that ball out there. If it's Jordan Love, I think we're talking about a very, very long touchdown. Here we have Matthew Golden starting in the slot, and he's going to run a cheat motion comeback. This is against Arizona State in the college football playoffs. I'll let it run once through there. And one thing I really like about this, well, first off, the Packers use a lot of cheat motion with their Z wide receiver, even in their slot. So they're going to be able to utilize Matthew Golden in this regard. If you can get Matthew Golden going pre-snap on a cheat motion with the speed he has, that's extremely dangerous, and you have to respect the deep ball here, and that's why this defender, in man coverage is playing so off of Matthew Golden here, because he has to respect the deep ball. Golden has 4.29 speed. If he tries to bite on a short route here, he's going to get cooked for a touchdown, and Matthew Golden runs a really nice deep stop route here, a little bit of a comeback, and one thing I really like about this route is watch when he's cutting upfield. There is no change of pace until he snaps down at the top of the route, does a quick snap down, his hips sink, his shoulders sink, and then he comes back and fights towards the football. A lot of players won't do that. They won't attack the football, right? As a wide receiver, if you don't attack towards the football here and you just kind of sit at the top of your route, you may be looking at an interception there. But if you fight back towards that football there after an aggressive snap down that Matthew Golden had, you're gonna get open and you're gonna catch a football like he did here. Again, I like that he didn't deviate his speed at all through this top of this route here. Snap down quick, break back towards the football, catch that thing, even break a tackle and try to get back outside. Here's the same thing in the same game. Again, it's the speed, the tempo of this route. It doesn't change until he snaps down, which then he does because this corner's in off zone coverage, I believe. And then he snaps down and then fights back towards the football. And that buzz defender, that flat defender is too late to get to it. It's a perfectly timed throw. And the Packers, which use a lot of timing routes, a lot of, in rhythm plays in their passing offense, Matthew Golden is going to be perfect for that, as you see here. Just a timing comeback route, nothing crazy, but when you look at the small nuances of what Matthew Golden does, doesn't change the speed of his route there until the snap down, then fights back towards the football. Here's Matthew Golden versus Georgia. And man, he puts this defender in a blender on this out route. This defender's outside shade man coverage. So right now, this guy's going, hey, I have help over the middle. I have two deep. I think they're in cover two man, it looks like. I have help in the middle. I just got to stop these outside routes. So I don't want you to run an out. Don't want you to run, a corner, a comeback, anything of that sort. And man, Matthew Golden puts this guy in a blender. So first we have quick motion from the outside, causes a shift from this Georgia defense, and then moves this defender more of a head up man-to-man on Matthew Golden, which gives him even more of an advantage here. On his release package, does a quick, hard step to the outside, then cuts inside, moving that cornerback to the inside, right? Just that little step out and then back in, push this cornerback all the way to the inside. Then Matthew Golden's able to restack that cornerback there, give a little head fake at the top of that route, break to this out route, and man, create 4 or 5 yards of separation on a man-to-man press corner here is very, very impressive. And it's not against some lower school. This is against the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. And I don't know who this defender is. Maybe it's a linebacker. I doubt they'd put a linebacker over Matthew Golden. It looks like it's a cornerback or a nickel corner of that sort. I can't really see the number, but he absolutely puts him in a blender. It's a perfectly executed out route here to threaten outside, then kind of get skinny, right? Restack that cornerback, use a little head fake right there at the top of the route. Beautifully done rocker step, head fake, burst outside, keep that route, flat, come flat to the sideline, but also kind of work back towards the football a slight bit, catch it and get out of bounds. One thing I really like about Matthew Golden is there's not many wasted steps. From his release package to his route running, there's very, very little wasted steps. And here's going to be another post route. And just like the route before, he's going to execute a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, rocker step here. So he's kind of working out of the slot here in this stack wide receiver bunch here. Again, the release package, it's simple, but it's effective, right? He's not against press, so he doesn't really have to do much here. He's just more so releasing inside to probably help with the timing and the makeup of this route combination here. But it's quick, no wasted steps, gets upfield, right? We have, I believe, cover 3 here. So this cornerback's outside. He's going to try to stop a 9, a corner route, and he has safety help over the middle. And the way you could beat this is by throwing a rocker step, showing that, hey, I'm running a corner route, then break back to the inside before the safety has time to realize. And that's exactly what he does here. And the safety is just a half a step too late. This was that huge touchdown at the end of this game. Absolutely insane moment in this game. And the fact that Matthew Golden was able to complete this in this moment of this game speaks to the type of big time player that he is. The ability to run this route against cover 3 and get open as easily as he did here. I mean, he puts this cornerback in a blender with that rocker step. And that rocker step right there with Matthew Golden selling corner. This safety, of course, is watching the quarterback, but does have peripheral vision here. All he's seeing here is, okay, Matthew Golden's running a corner. He's running to the outside. Then that quick, fluid break back inside and a perfectly thrown ball. Such a greatly ran post route here. And again, Matthew Golden, no wasted steps. And it's such an explosive wide receiver the Packers got. Here's a play showcasing Golden's yards after catch ability. Arizona State lines up in press here, but then backs off to, kind of a deep third zone here. And Matthew Golden does a good job at just simply finding the open zone. He has 3 defenders here to 2 wide receivers. This defender's kind of buzzing to this flat here to this tight end. You just got to find the open zone here, and that's exactly what he does. He finds that open zone, catch the ball, and then go to work, right? Make a couple defenders miss, turn on the jets, and then get upfield. And that's exactly what it does. You can see the burners here of Matthew Golden getting a ton of yards after the catch here. I really like him just finding the open zone, becoming a quarterback's best friend, right? Not really taking it full speed because he doesn't have to, because if he does, he's going to run right into the safety. Just finding the open zone, looking back and making a play for your quarterback. Not only that, you get a big gain there. You get 15 yards there. Then make a man miss and turn on the jets, get upfield, and make a massive, massive play in a very, very big game. Here's a play showcasing Matthew Golden's, contested catch ability and his very strong hands. This reminds me a lot of Romeo Doubs in the red zone. He's going to run an out route, and he does a good job at inside release, attacking the leverage of the safety up here. And then again, he's so quick at the top of his routes. He's so quick with his cuts and his footwork that he creates that separation. And it's a perfect timing route, perfect roll right throw by Quinn Ewers, and putting it out there to where only his wide receiver can go up and get it. And man, you can see the vertical, the athleticism there to sky above that defender, snag that ball out of the air, and just rip it away from that defender. He has no chance to even touch that football. Really, really strong hands here. You love seeing this, right? He has great hand-eye coordination. Really, really strong hands, attacks that football with his hands, doesn't go up for a body catch of anything of that sort. A lot of receivers, would do that in this scenario, and you want to use your hands, obviously, and bring that thing down strong, out and then back and away from that defender, and then into your body, secure it through the contact here, through the ground. That's exactly what he does. Just a big time catch. Here's a couple more contested catches I have for you guys. Here we have Matthew Golden lining up out of the slot. Then he's going to motion to the outside. Again, more cheat motion. And I believe this is going to be a stop and go here, full turnaround stop and go. I don't know if it was actually designed for this. I think once Matthew Golden broke on this, comeback route, this deep stop route, and saw the play was kind of, not blown up, but extending, then he turns this into a stop and go here. And Quinn Ewers does a great job putting that out there for him. And Matthew Golden goes up yet again. He plays a lot bigger than his frame, as I've been saying. Goes up there against that Georgia defender, high points the football, brings it away from the defender's, arms and hands, and his ability to knock that thing out. And again, strong hands on the outside here. Great body control. That's one thing that Matthew Golden that really, really stands out is his body control here. He's able to contort his body in different ways. The timing of his jumps, the timing of, his late hands is very impressive, which I'll show you in the last clip right after this. Late hands, also very impressive for a wide receiver. Another big time catch against a big time defense in the Georgia Bulldogs. Here's the last clip I have, another contested catch and another really great example of his body control, his ability on the sideline to contort his body and also show late hands against a man coverage cornerback. One of the most important things against man coverage is to not show your hands too early, because what is a cornerback watching in man coverage? He's watching your eyes, he's watching your hands, at least on a 9 route. So you have to be very, direct in that, and being able to not show your hands too early is very important to beating man coverage, especially on the outside on a deep route here. And that's exactly what he does against this Arizona State cornerback here. Very, very late hands. And then his ability to kind of work back to the inside towards the numbers gives him a little bit more space on the outside towards the hashes. And at that last moment, being able to use his body to contort it to the outside, go up and make that catch. Extremely late hands. The defender really doesn't have a chance at all because he doesn't even really see it coming. So that's all the film I have for Matthew Golden, the Packers' first round selection in the 2025 NFL draft. I'm extremely excited for what he's going to be able to bring to this Packers offense, what he's going to be able to do with Jordan Love as a deep threat wide receiver, but a nuanced route runner, a guy that can separate. A lot of the issues in the past with Packers wide receivers has been the lack of separation, maybe the lack of top end speed outside of Christian Watson. And Matthew Golden brings both of those things to the Packers offense. Now, we still have Dontavian Wicks, who's a great separator, Romeo Doubs, who's an all-around good wide receiver, Jaden Reed out of the slot. We also drafted Savion Williams, which I'm very excited to break down his tape. Let me know what player you want me to break down next out of this Packers 2025 NFL draft class. I'm looking to do every player, or at least most of them, now until about OTAs, because we have that dead part of the offseason. But I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed the deep dive, the breakdown of Matthew Golden. Again, just so excited about him in this offense. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you expect out of Matthew Golden in this Packers offense year one? I appreciate you guys coming by. I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.